In the unfolding epic of early interstellar contact known as the Human Worship Scan, a sprawling and intricately layered chapter of speculative cosmic history, scholars often trace the first threads of this phenomenon back to the late 21st and early 22nd centuries, when humanity's accelerating, digital footprint radiated outward from Earth, like a diffuse beacon of technological adolescence, carrying with it not only the structured data packets of scientific discourse and engineering blueprints, but also the far more abstract cultural artifacts of ritual, belief, and spiritual yearning, all of which drifted, often unintentionally, into the silent abysses between stars, where they were eventually intercepted by the Valorians, a highly advanced, long-lived, and philosophically inquisitive species residing in the Alcyonius cluster, whose crystalline neural architecture rendered them exceptionally sensitive to patterns of emotion, intention, and communal resonance encoded in electromagnetic signals. The Valorians, fascinated by what they described as the vibrational paradox of human worship, a blend of vulnerability, aspiration, and collective coherence, dedicated decades to deciphering these transmissions, perceiving in human chants, hymns, and liturgical rhythms a kind of cognitive music that hinted at complex evolutionary and existential dynamics, and this fascination ultimately led them to dispatch an uncrewed observation vessel, the Vartheta 9, to Earth's orbit under strict non-interference protocols, which were themselves part of a long-standing Valorian doctrine known as the ethos of silent witnessing, a framework that permitted observation, but forbade direct manipulation, of any species that had not yet achieved multi-system autonomy. Upon arrival in Earth's orbit, the vessel deployed an array of quantum lens, instruments capable of registering infinitesimal fluctuations in neural activity, emotional coherence, and social synchronization from considerable distances. And after months of listening to the global tapestry of worship, from whispered prayers in solitary rooms to massive gatherings, in luminous megachurches, from rhythmic Sufi dances to quiet Buddhist meditation halls, the Valorians pinpointed a small coastal town where a modest, interdenominational community was preparing for its annual night of renewal, a ritual blending elements of music, reflection, ecstatic praise, and communal reconciliation, which the aliens identified as an ideal microcosm of humanity's broader spiritual spectrum. When the night arrived, the Vartheta 9 activated its scanning, airy, an elegant web of photonic entanglement beams that interacted with human neurochemistry without causing physical disturbance, and the resulting data, later translated and studied by both species, revealed that the act of worship triggered a cascading symphony of neural synchrony across the congregation. Surges of oxytocin, dopamine, and endogenous opioids intertwined, with complex patterns of cortical resonance that aligned remarkably well with certain Valorian ceremonial practices, suggesting that the impulse to engage in collective meaning-making might be a convergent evolutionary trait rather than a cultural anomaly. This insight astonished the Valorians, who had long theorized that only species with crystalline neural matrices like their own could generate the kind of quantum-coherent emotional fields observed in their rituals, and the realization that humans, despite their carbon-based biology, could create similar harmonics prompted a philosophical crisis within the Alcyonius Council, whose members debated for years whether the shared resonance implied a deeper cosmological kinship between species, perhaps hinting at a universal structure of consciousness that transcended biology and emerged wherever intelligent life evolved, sufficiently complex internal models of purpose and transcendence. Meanwhile, on Earth, the congregation that had been scanned remained blissfully unaware of their momentary entanglement. With alien observers, those subtle anomalies recorded that night, unexpected flickers in candle flames, brief static in audio equipment, strange electromagnetic ripples recorded on the town's weather monitors, later fed into conspiracy theories once the event became public knowledge decades afterward. The turning point came when a young Valorian xenopsychologist named Vale Troon compiled a monumental report on the scan's results, arguing that humanity's worship behavior constituted not merely a cultural practice but a sophisticated neurosocial technology, capable of generating group coherence fields, a concept that Valorians traditionally associated with advanced spiritual species, and that therefore humanity should be reclassified from a developing civilization to an emergent resonant species, a designation which carried with it certain diplomatic privileges under Valorian law and required, by custom, the initiation of a formal cross-civilizational dialogue. Despite opposition from conservative factions within the Alcyonius Council, who feared premature contact could destabilize humanity's natural development, the motion, passed after extensive deliberation, and thus the Valorians crafted a delicate out